In the studio, we've got two types of molds that you can use. We've got the tube molds, and we also have bisque molds. I'm going to show you a quick way to use these bisque molds. So these are bisque molds, which means they've already been fired to for the first firing to roughly 1800 degrees, which enables me to put the clay directly on them and not have to put anything over it. Unlike the tube molds where you have to use a piece of paper or paper towel because the clay would stick to it, clay will not stick to bisque. No matter how much I push on it, it doesn't stick. So it can be a great tool for making something, for using as a mold. So I've got my slab that I've rolled out, and I need to compress my slab. So I like to use the metal rib. Sometimes I'll use the rubber rib. The metal rib is not the one with the serrated teeth, and I use the round side of the rib. And anytime I use the metal rib, I want to be mindful of not scraping the clay off with my fingers because I can slice my thumb. So when the clay builds up, I put it on the table, and I just sort of get in that habit so I don't get cut. You can get kind of a nasty sort of paper cut from that if you don't be careful. So I'm going to compress it, smooth it out, carefully flip it over, smooth this side out. Erase the texture. Any surface that is not intentional, we want to get rid of. Then I'm going to pick this mold to show you. So this is a good mold, this bisque mold, because it's round on this side and round and uninterrupted on this side. This is a okay mold to use because it's round on the inside, but it's not on the outside. You've got this foot, because this was a leftover bowl from a wheel thrown project. So if I put clay over this, the foot would get in the way. So this mold, we would only use the interior unless for some reason you wanted that. This bowl mold is a little bit more useful because I can use either side. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put my clay over it. I just carefully pick up my slab and set it over it and start to work it down. And I'm sort of doing it gently so I don't get a crease. And stretching it down a bit, using my hands and my palms, getting it to the shape of this mold. And I would fine tune this edge. And then, again, I'm sort of working through this a little bit more quickly than you will be, but I'd fine tune this edge. Then I can come in and cut around a little bit more carefully than I'm doing. Put this clay back in my bag so it doesn't dry out. And now I can leave this on the mold for maybe 20, maybe 30 minutes. I would not leave this on the mold overnight. The bisque pulls and draws the moisture out, so it helps to set this up. But if you put it on your shelf overnight or for 3 or 4 days, you would come back and it would have split open because it's on a surface that will not shrink with it. And immediately when the clay comes out of the bag, it's starting to dry, which means it's also starting to shrink ever so slowly. So I'd set this aside, work on something else for 20 or 30 minutes, and then see if I can pop it off. Most likely, if I'm careful, I can pop this off right now. See? So I'm going to just gently start to lift this up, set it down, and it will hold its shape. So obviously, if I push down on it or start to stack things on it, if I'm building a sculpture, I need to let this set up a bit before I do that, because if I push, it's going to collapse. But this is a fairly quick and easy way to get, a shape like this. And I could also have used the interior as well. Again, I don't want to put clay on the interior and then put it on my shelf and leave it for a couple days. If for some reason I wanted to put it on the interior and leave it for a couple days, I could put plastic down, then put my clay in, because even when my clay starts to dry and shrink, it's not on a surface that it clamps down on, it's in the inside of the bowl. So a little bit more forgiving if you're doing it on the inside than the outside. But this is a nice way to make and start a general shape. And it doesn't have to stay like this. You could start to construct an object, a sculpture from this basic shape. Maybe this is the base to something else that you're going to build on. And even if you were to build quite a bit, let's say my tube is clay, if this clay is at the right moisture level, I can put weight on this and build up. The key is making sure it's at the right moisture level, not so wet that it's going to slump down and not so dry that it won't accept something to slip and score on it. So these molds are a nice, quick and easy way to get some general shape started. Just keep an eye on the moisture level, and you never leave the clay on the mold directly in contact with the mold for more than one class sitting.